Okay, let's go to the next one here. This one, old Noam Chomsky, and just the Jeffrey Epstein story. It never really does die, does it? So let's go ahead and put this one up on the screen. This is it's hard to say for somebody who is certainly respected. The book that we have literally on the shelf, which I've always thought was very important, foundational to understanding manufacturing consent and media incentives and all that, by the intellectual Noam Chomsky, linguist, somebody I still do respect, I guess, somewhat intellectually.
You still respect his scholarship.
I can respect his scholarship. That said, we now have proof from the Wall Street Journal that Jeffrey Epstein moved $270,000 for Noam Chomsky and paid an additional $150,000 to an academic named Leon Botstein. So what the journal says is that this transfer between accounts for Noam Chomsky, the two academics, have all been confirmed both by Chomsky as well as financial records that the Wall Street Journal has been able to get their hands on, says that Chomsky met with Epstein, not just the one time that we had previously said, but actually on multiple occasions. Now, Chomsky says that they, quote, met occasionally to discuss political and academic topics. And in response to those questions, actually what they say is that previously one of the payoffs, this is to Botstein, was 150 grand because Epstein had donated a sum to Barr that year as more than a $1 million donation. A spokesperson then said that they did receive this like weird pass-through donation through Leon Botstein. Not exactly sure what's going on there. With Chomsky, he doesn't really have a particularly good explanation. He says he received a March 8, 2018 transfer of $270,000 from an Epstein account. He says, quote, "It was restricted to a rearrangement of my own funds and did not involve one penny from Epstein." He explained he had asked him for help, quote, "with a technical matter that involved the disbursement of common funds related to his first marriage." He says, "My wife died 15 years ago. We paid no attention to financial issues. We asked Epstein for advice. The simplest way would be to transfer funds from one account in my name to another by way of his office." Chomsky said he did not hire Epstein. It was just a quick and a simple transfer of funds. Look, I mean, maybe. His initial response to the question, Krystal, was, remember whenever they revealed that he'd met? First response is none of your business or anyone. Second is I knew him and we met occasionally. So is it possible that it's an innocent explanation? Maybe. But, I mean, it boggles the mind to think of a true scenario where you need a $250,000 bridge loan from Jeffrey Epstein. Like, we have a legitimate financial system and we have ways to rectify those problems. Why would it make sense for you to transfer money from one account to another guy's account who then transfers money to you? If you do need to transfer money to yourself, why don't you just wire money to yourself or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm just like, it's like there are many ways to give money to yourself. Very few of them involve me sending it to you to send it to me. And, we have a closer relationship, hopefully, than Jeffrey Epstein and Noam Chomsky. So anyway, I think it's a little bit odd.
It lines up with so many of these things that come out where it's, Epstein is doing financial transactions for people that you're like, why was this person in the middle of this? Why were they involved? He clearly made himself in the business of like solving whatever little issue, whatever little problem that people with power or money had. And so somehow I don't understand how or why it makes sense to put himself in the middle of this just transfer of funds between accounts. I mean, we do lots of fund transfers here at Breaking Points.
Yes.
Never once have we been like, let's get this weird pedophile to help us with the transaction.
Yeah,
let's send it to him and then send it back to us.
We just take it out of our account. We send it to the person we owe money to.
Right. You put on a wire.
Right.
Like, it's not really that hard. You can do it online these days. So that, yes. And at the same time, there's some additional news about some of the banks and their relationships with Epstein. So he was originally a JP Morgan Chase customer for many years, and they're in trouble over that, and they're facing discovery over their relationship. Jamie Dimon's been subpoenaed and all these sorts of things. So that happened. Then after JP Morgan Chase was like, all right, I think we better be done with this dude. Then Deutsche Bank picks up where they left off, and they had this relationship with Epstein for years after he was already convicted. So there's really no excuse, and they've been in a lot of hot water for ignoring what were like really obvious incredibly suspicious transactions that were going on. So put this next piece up on the screen. We now have Deutsche Bank paying $75 million to victims of Jeffrey Epstein. This is a proposed court settlement, closes, they say, another chapter in the German bank's relationship with the disgraced financier, which began in 2013 and continued up until late 2018. So this was to settle a potential class action lawsuit charging that this financial institution facilitated his sex trafficking ring, according to lawyers who sued the bank on behalf of alleged victims. You had a woman who was listed anonymously as Jane Doe in court papers who filed this suit last year in New York, and this was on behalf of herself and other accusers of Epstein. So, you know, they want to make this go away, and I would say for a gigantic global financial institution like Deutsche Bank, $75 million to them, it's nothing.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
You're right. And Deutsche Bank has long had problems and links to Jeffrey Epstein. They were one of the originals that were cited by the New York Financial Department for some of the activities that they had taken on behalf of them. And what was revealed actually in the Deutsche Bank complaint, and the complaint by them, from the New York Financial Services Department, is basically that they knew that he was involved in sketchy transactions. They knew he was a sex offender. They never kicked him off of their client list. Despite the fact that they knew all of what was going on, they continued to pursue him for business transactions. And really, some of the most troubling was that they were facilitating transactions which would be illegal in any or which would be flagged to federal authorities by any other client. So for example, Krystal, if you or I were to go to our bank and we were to ask this question, how much money can we withdraw without alerting the feds? They're supposed to alert the feds. He asked that question, and then after they told him the answer, he would take out basically up until $1 in cash for all of that. His assistants would say that it was for tips. They also were wiring all kinds of crazy amounts of money to Eastern Europe for potential sex trafficking, potential like sex trafficking purposes. There was some financial behavior where no normal person would ever get away with.
That's right.
And that they knew was sketchy because they were flagging it internally and continued to do business with him.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they didn't want any sort of discovery with regard to this. They didn't want any of their dirty laundry to be aired publicly. And so, like I said, I think $75 million is them getting off really easy here.
Oh, it's easy as hell because, I mean, who even knows? They might have made more than that just in the fees that they had from banking with him. I mean, they certainly paid a fine there, but even reputationally, as you said, like to expose the level of safeguards that they didn't have in place while this was happening, which these banks all supposedly do have. Again, you know, for you and me, for somebody who, let's say somebody fell on hard times and declared bankruptcy or something. It's like, well, then the bank has all these regulations about how they can and can't do business. Right. But if you are literally convicted sex offender and you have a proven track record of moving money around for trafficking purposes, apparently that's all good as long as you bring in enough money. I mean, that's all it takes to be a client for one of these people.
It's so dirty.
Yeah.
It really is so dirty. I mean, this is unrelated to Epstein, but Wells Fargo, which has been another really bad actor. And they claim they had that whole fake account scandal. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was described. They were opening up accounts in people's names that they never asked for. Right. They were creating fake accounts just routinely as part of their culture. And they just had an issue where their shareholders are accusing them of lying about that they had things under control. And that they had cleaned up their act, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, these are so many of these institutions, if not all of them, are just so incredibly dirty.
Yeah, dirty as hell.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now. And Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com. Or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.